We are doing legislation. I want to get this video out of the way. You saw my presidential policy or my presidential agenda. I released that on Twitter. Most of my bills and some of my bills are getting used already. And today is democracy, so it's pretty awesome to see. So I just wanted to go through the rest of them. These are bills to come and to finish, my presidential agenda, the one that I had written down. So by the time I get there, if I do run, or whether or not I do or I don't run, it will already be done and in place, which is awesome. So finishing that, the United States is ranked 8th overall, which is, I'd like to believe, as the face of the free world. Everything that we do is seen, everywhere and duplicated and made to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's duplicated and made to use and made to replicate, for everybody in every nation. So as the forefront of the world, I believe we're number 1, but we are ranked 8th. And education and smarts and wit, we are ranked, in the 20s and 30s, which I think needs a facelift. Because, like I said, I feel like it's the forefront of the world and the face of the world. We are number 1. So, that being said, I want to get into education first. This education bill will be all of the sorts, so you'd have to take the whole bill. That's the way bills work. You can't just take like one portion of it. You'd have to take the whole bill in order for it to be passed. So education lotto funding is what I want to get into first. So the way the lottery works is, a portion of that money is given to or put towards an education fund. This education fund is actually given to the city, and then the city divvies it up into what they would like to spend it on. It's being advertised as an education fund and them helping education. I feel like with budget cuts and stuff like that, if we fix that, make sure it gets to education and not into the city's hand to spend how they would like, and fix a lot of problems with funding and pay for education and towards education. So that is in this education bill. It fixes that, makes sure that money goes where it needs to go. Which is super important to get, for our children to get and stay on top. Child divorce reform. So instead of always giving it to the woman, we ask for equality, not to split apart families, but we put this in the education bill because it's not about the man or the woman, the husband or the wife. It's about the child at that point. Where the child can thrive and get what they need and have a good life and a good chance at life. So we tag that into the education bill. We want to make sure that child is going not only where they want to be, where they feel safe and comfortable, but where they can thrive and eat and have a good life. So we're not only are we taking in the child's vote, we're gonna also take in the votes of everybody that has a say. I think it's super unfair for a child to have to go somewhere they don't want to be, or for a child to go somewhere where they can't afford them, which is a big part of a big part of divorce is choosing where the child go and what the child has. Free college. So the government is paying for college anyways. Through FAFSA. Most students are on FAFSA. I think FAFSA should be available to all students. There is a tax bracket where students, or some people, they can barely afford, just because they make enough money, they pay their mortgage and they can't afford to send their kid to college, so their kid doesn't have an opportunity to go to college. I think it's unfair, and I think FAFSA should be available to everybody. So what that does is it takes away that bracket or that area of people, because some kids that are going to college don't even use their time at college correctly, and then there's other kids that are brilliant who don't even have the opportunity to go to college because they can't afford it because their parents make a little bit too much money on paper, but can't afford to send them to school or pay tuition, which isn't right at all. So we're getting those kids into school, making education free for all, to be able to go, and government funded, as it already is. Super easy switch to hit, super easy bill to pass. Colleges, to go to college, you'll be paying for the experience. So some of these big colleges like University of Michigan, USC, you'll be paying for the things around you, the things that you're doing, better classes, but everybody will have that opportunity to go to college and have a right to go to college, and a right to better themselves, and a right to further their education. Especially those kids with good grades that deserve to go, that parents can't afford, to send them because they make a little bit too much money. So we hit that bracket. Student loan write-off. So if you graduate from college, we'll write your loans off. This is also in that bill. As long as you graduate, your loans are, will be you could write off your student loans. This works for government jobs in some cases. I know you're allowed to write your tax off for being write your student loans off for being a teacher and things of that sort. We're going to go ahead and push that a little further to if you graduate from college, with your degree, you can write those loans off because you become a skilled laborer, and that money actually pumps, through taxes, pumps back to the economy, and you're adding a little oomph, to the working class. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that for you. Like I said, we are ranked like the 20s and 30s in the world, like out of countries. So we're getting that taken care of, and we plan on or hope to be in the top 10 once again, with inventions and innovations. It's super important. I don't want to fall too far behind the curve on education, because there are a lot of things to be discovered and created still, and I think it's super important, along with those STEM programs, the science and math. Catching up and staying up to par with that is super important, because some of the best scientists are coming from other countries and continents. Some of the best inventions, some of the best products, some of the best medications are coming from other countries, and I think we're starting to fall behind a little bit on education, so we're going to pick that back up. If you graduate, then we'll write off those loans for you. If not, you will have to pay your student loans if you do need loans, along with the experience that you're paying for college. To go back up on that note, books, they are something that the college will sell, so you have to be able to afford your books. Like I said, you'll be paying for the experience and better classes and stuff of that sort. So your materials for class you will actually have to pay for. But college tuition and getting in, like going to college, you wouldn't have to. School safety officers. This is super important. So we've had a lot of school mass shootings in America. What this does is it gives every operational task force money to put an officer off duty, reserved military personnel with the license to carry. It lets them go ahead and do a rotation of the different schools in your area, and make sure that everything's going safe and all the laws are followed and there's no harm or harmful people in the area at these schools. It's an easy fix to have an officer at that school. This funding would allow for it to, keep our children safe from mass shootings and things of that sort. And it allows us to react a little faster to the things that are going on. Because the number one thing is to keep our children smart and safe, because they are the future. So this education bill is super important to pass. So that's the officer safety clause. We make sure to keep those kids safe with these mass shootings, because they pop up all the time here in America. So we plan on putting it into that in a safe and timely manner, to let them know right away that was not tolerated and we are prepared for it. So if you think you're going to get away, or you think you're going to be able to do that or come to school and harm somebody else, it will be taken care of in a quick and timely manner. And no kid should be afraid to come to school. So we go ahead and drop that military personnel clause in there too with the right to carry. They know what they're doing with their weapons, not in a threatening sense, but in a protecting sense. So it's super important to get that started. Where are we at? Education structure. So if you look at my EDU Tech education structure, it ties in with that, and I wrote a new structure for education. This is just to get our kids caught up and above the curve. You would graduate from high school with an associate's or a skilled trade. So you'd be able to do something, to productive to work as soon as you get out of high school. That would pay you a good salary, which adds to our job force, which is super important. Or you'd be ready to go into, your actual studies in college. So what you'd actually be doing, working henceforth. The education structure is a little different, which is perfect. It allows for you to, it allows for breathing room for a student to grow and do what they have to do to be productive, not only, from an educational standpoint, but in life after. It gives them a fair shot at life and to know what to do and how to cope and how to carry themselves further in life, which is super important in all areas and aspects. So education technology, that's going to change pretty soon. Funding for education has gone down. Technology has changed immensely, but it has not for college. We're still using, pencils, paper, notepad, books, stuff like that, when there are better resources or other resources available or other ways to teach, and more using psychology. There's more efficient ways to learn or trick the brain into learning things faster. As we grow older and we grow up and technology advances, the things our children can do advance also. So that technology is huge because we have 1 and 2 year olds operating iPads, where grandparents and grandmas could never or still can't, and it's hard for them to learn. So the things that we're having our children do are a little bit under their brain rate, I guess, their brain capacity, which is pretty cool to see that growth from generation to generation. But that technology needs to be changed out, and we have reform and tools to get that advanced and where it needs to be. College food advancement. This is super important. Food allowance, excuse me. This is super important. What we do with that is we allow college students to have the right to food. So much like your WIC or your food stamps, we're going to go ahead and give that to college students, that allowance to college students to eat. Even if it's at a low rate, we give them something or a snack, to make it through the hard times of college. You hear stories of people eating ramen noodles and stuff like that in college. Well, we're going to go ahead and give them allowance. They're students, they're hard at work. They deserve to be able to eat like everybody else does. No student should go hungry. If you don't have the money for the meal plan, we go ahead and provide, an alternative or somewhat of an alternative for you to be successful. Stress is a huge reason and a huge hindrance to the dropout rate, which we're trying to fix here to get all those skilled workers and more skilled workers working in America, rather than exporting their jobs or importing different people from different places to do those jobs. Food allowance, universal pre-K. This is super important. The education structure is going to change. Universal pre-K would allow for those 4 or 5 year olds to get into school and get a taste of that and get used to the technology. What they teach at home, what your parents teach you at home, is cool. You have a right to keep your kid home, until like that 4 or 5 age range, until kindergarten starts. Universal pre-K will be available to those kids that are ready to go, ready to learn and willing to learn. Super important to get our kids active early and acclimated early to the world and how it works, especially in that social aspect too. So universal pre-K is also in there. High school life courses and reform. We spoke about having the kids having a right to a good and healthy life straight out of high school. This concept came from the thought of foster kids not having that parent or that support to teach them the things they need to know in life to be successful. because once you get to a certain stage, it's sink or swim. So we're kind of getting ahead of that and giving them a way to swim on their own, or teaching them how to swim on their own. These life courses that will be added are things like learning how to balance a checkbook, learning how to take care of cash, learning what debt is, how to manage debt, sex education, which is super important, what to do, how to do it, how to take care of yourself, classes and courses like that, to get you over the curb and through life from a financial standpoint, so you're not sinking as soon as you step off the porch. Because from high school, you go from raising your hand to college, where you don't have to do anything, or nobody's telling you what to do, and you're off on your own. So we're kind of getting kids and people, young adults, ready for that next step with these courses, which is in the educational structure, and it's super important. School of choice. You should always be able to choose where you go to school. This is going to be a right. Being able to go to the school across town or anywhere you could drive to is going to be a right, whether that's for athletics or academics. If you can get into that school with your grades and your grades are good, you are able to go and switch and choose your school, because you deserve to be there and you deserve to be able to further your education how you'd like, which is super important. For you to be able to choose your school and choose how you learn, and learn the most you can, and be thrive where you can. This is all that same educational bill once again. School lunch reform. I know kids are going hungry for school lunch because they do not like the bill that was passed to make lunches 100% healthy. Healthy is a choice of word. I know snacks were swapped out, and the things you can choose for food are swapped out, and kids are just not eating because they don't like what they're being served, that's never okay. I watched that happen during my time in high school, where we were eating pretty good food. There's nothing wrong with it. It was good. Nobody was complaining, and then it switched over, and I watched kids go hungry and not eat, or come to school for breakfast. Even the kids with the free or reduced lunch, not eat and just leave it there, like pick and choose what they eat, which is never right. I want hungry kids, because the brain operates off of that energy, which is super important. So whether we swap out, having unhealthy or calorie counted lunches to healthy snacks like apples and fruits and veggies and stuff like that, or whether we do, unhealthy snacks to calorie counted lunches. Lunch has to change back to the way it is. We need to get these students fed and eating. It also ups, that income for, the cafeteria, which is super smart. And this is coming from the students and the younger generation, asking for this to be changed back to the way it was. So super important to get that voice out there and get that verse heard. And last on this education bill, and this is kind of the tie in with that education lotto funding, is teacher pay versus daycare pay. Daycare personnel is making more than teachers, so we're going to have to up that salary at some point. This allows funding to get where it's supposed to go. That's why you did the education lotto funding first. It's super, super important for that to get where it needs to go, because teachers are going on strike and stepping out, and along with that child divorce reform, it's never healthy for the child to suffer from something going on that adults have caused, or something that's going on that adults can control. It's not so much them, the adults suffering. It's more of the kids suffering and losing out on opportunities and being able to do things. So we're going to go ahead and get that taken care of, because teachers are saying they'd rather get paid daycare pay, versus teacher pay. So this is super important to get taken care of. And the funding behind it, and the actual writing of the bill will have like the numbers behind it, which I have to type and get ready and do the math behind it. But this changes that. It makes it makes it so teachers are getting paid what they deserve, because they are not only spending time, with the students, that 8 hours with 9 hours with the students, 10 hours, really an hour, after the bell rings, and an hour, before the bell rings, so 10 hours with the students. They also have to go home and grade paper, make lesson plans and stuff like that, so their job is non-stop. So we go ahead and get them funded and paid the way they should be paid, with that education lotto funding, which will take care of the back end of that, which is super important. So that's education. We go to the economy next. So the economy, what I did with the economy is there's a real estate kicker, and this will fix the real estate market. What this does is this clause, it gives you a voucher to take the value of your home and upgrade to a bigger and better home. So with saved cash, you could get a better and bigger home from the voucher that you get from the government, saying that, hey, your house is up for the real estate kicker. So you take this voucher and you go ahead and be able to go to market with it to buy a bigger home. What that does is it gets the next guy under. So these people who can't afford bigger and better homes, it gives them a voucher also. So everybody takes a step up, so they can take over that home, and the housing market thrives from it, which is super important. Also with homelessness, which is a bill in here, I don't think it's down here anywhere. It gives them a chance to go ahead and get into a house, a low income house, or like a low income house, or opportunities to fix these foreclosed or condemned houses, so they would have a place to stay, because there are way more houses than there are homeless people. I forgot the number off the top of my head. It's an astounding number. There are, I want to say 33K homeless people, maybe more than that. It might be 360K or something like that. Homeless people in America, and they're I want to say 300 million to, I want to say 500 million houses that are vacant or condemned or foreclosed or not being used. So go ahead and get everybody, a step up in life, a step up with real estate, so the real estate market will thrive from it, generating funds and due diligence to the economy. So that's the real estate kicker. We're getting ready for that, which is going to be awesome. Technologies, rules, and reform. This gives the government the right to release technologies. Technology is released at a rate of, every 100 years worth of technology that the government has is above us, or 100, 200 years of technology that the government has above us, we don't get until, they're ready to release it. This goes ahead and lets them release that technology to be used, for better living and safer living, amongst households and amongst society and cities and states. So this is letting everybody get their hands on technologies to create better living situations, for the human, for mankind, which is pretty cool. Getting that out there. Uplift Economy Act. So what this is trickle up economics. This is my own bill that is actually being used and looked at now, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like, it's actually kind of like being tested with the stimulus bill, and also that $2,000 bill, plus hence the COVID-19 epidemic. So what this does is it puts money, the government funds or gives an allowance to the working man and the working class. And it puts the money in the hands of, the lower class. What the lower class does with it, they pay their debts, pay rent, pay for manufactured goods. Not often will they save it, but some do save it, and acquire and put it into the bank. What that does is it puts money into the economy and keeps the economy flowing by not only them spending money, but then the money is taxed, at the end of the year. They have to pay taxes at the end of the year. Not only that, you take it to the next stage to the upper echelons, or manufacturers, or businesses and corporations which are getting paid and receiving that money, from the purchases, and banks and stuff like that, which are receiving that money, and then they get taxed, so that money's going to the government also, and then from that it goes up into the market, and back into the hands of the governments, which is taken. So that money's not only getting spent, it's getting taxed back, and it all goes back to the governments, which keeps the government circling in the same chain, which is perfect, and it keeps the government running in a perfect manner and a better condition, which it works, which is great to see. It's good to see that. Stock system change. I can't share that one. That one's kind of confidential. It's my own stock market plan used for the government's purpose on a CPU-based system, to pull funds for the government to do different things and fund different things. It also works, for overseas and currencies and stuff like that. So something I keep in my back pocket to keep the market functioning and the market in our favor, and which is pretty cool, and keeps the economy running on all states and all countries. Whatever's on there is going to get of value, stay of value, and it keeps it from crashing, which is super important. So that's cool. National debt reform. We're working on that New Deal. It's getting ready to be accepted. With the New Deal, they're arranging things with China to get everything taken care of. If you see my Twitter, you look at my Twitter, it's on there somewhere. And the Trump's tariffs and taxes are paying for half of it, and then the other half we're getting generated from different aspects of government, which takes care of the national debt, which is like $1.2 trillion right now, but over the next 10, 12 years, that'll be taken care of and wiped out, which is pretty cool. Getting that done. Military. So military, we have military increased pay of E1. No way. I respect our troops to the point where I say no way that a person in the fast food industry working 5 days should be making more than a soldier who busts his hump 7 days of the week to protect our country. The pay to the military pay to military spend ratio, it's more than affordable, and it can be done. It just needs to be looked at and taken care of. So I'm saying at E1 they should be making salary at least two, if not more, than a fast food worker working even 7 days a week, protecting our country, which is super important for our troops to have that. Not only that, this is also for the military. The military ID drinking age should be 18. If you're 18 fighting for our country, you should be able to go to a bar and get a drink. So that military ID is what you will need to be able to get into a bar and get a drink if you are in the military and you are 18 years old. It's super important. I know in other countries the drinking age is lower, like 16, 18, some places 14. And parents let them have glasses of wine with dinner or whatever. It's super important to me, an aspect to me. And it's been said to me that it's super important too that they can't go to the bar with their friends or their people who they go to war with or in the trenches with. They can't go out and enjoy that. And I think that's super important for them, like even in war times, to be able to enjoy that beer, that time that they have, that downtime that they have at any age if you're in the military, which is super important. So have that ID and you'll be able to get in. Also, reparations for vets. We'll get into the reparations clause a little bit later. And it's also open to veterans, which is super important. I'll get into that next. We still got... So I'll just get into this one. The gays. So we're going to do transgender and illness IDs. So if you're trans... there's gonna be a mark on your ID, or it's gonna say that you are trans, or a symbol will state that you're trans. If you have AIDS, it will state that you have AIDS or a sickness or illness. It'll always state that, or there will be a symbol on your ID. So it'll automatically know, hey, this is what you're dealing with, or this is what you're doing, or this is him, her, she, or however you identify, which is fair. It's fair to know and fair to be able to tell what or who you're dating, to identify what or who you're dating, because you don't want to be in bed with a monster. Like, you have no idea, which is something that everybody's worried about. And I think doing that will make it a lot easier for the transition for people to be who they want to and how they want to. I'm a libertarian Republican, so I have Republican values, but I see what the Democrats need and how it should be taken care of. I'm a capitalist, so that Republican comes in. I know everything has to be affordable for us to pay for it. So where Democrat just has these issues and will pull money or make money to pay for it. Republicans, we will take money, we'll make the money, through the capitalist system rather than the socialist system to pay for the things that we need. So that's how I run. I identify as a Republican for the most and main part. Where we at and keep Republican values. Women's rights, women's right and equal pay and equality. Men and Women Equality Act. This is an act to fair pay for females for labor. It's a right, and there's no prejudice towards it. It often comes down to negotiations, what this can't cover. So women would have to be better at negotiating what they're getting paid for a salary job, or how they're getting paid for a salary job. So it's up to them, to close the deal on this one. But it does call for equal pay.